jazz scene in Columbus, Ohio is an interesting mixture. Like many big cities, Columbus has a 24-hour jazz radio station. It's mostly smooth and R&B-tinged jazz, peppered with some classic jazz from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It has establishments that host jazz groups, including a downtown bar where weekly jam sessions showcase local unknown and known talent, and at least 2 bona fide jazz clubs. Then there are the nonprofit organizations, 2 of them really, Jazz Arts Group, or JAG, and A Tribe for Jazz, the newest to the neighborhood. A Tribe for Jazz is the topic of this episode of Strictly Jazz Sounds. Hi, I'm Steve Browngan, and welcome to Strictly Jazz Sounds, your place for a conversation of all things jazz. Stephanie Matthews is the executive director for A Tribe for Jazz, and she has some serious game. She brings several qualities to the table. Stephanie is a movie producer. She's done documentary shorts. Stephanie is a fashion photographer with some impressive credits to her name, and creative director who can now say she has a billboard on New York City's famed Times Square. Under Stephanie's leadership, A Tribe for Jazz intends to keep all eyes on jazz's delicate legacy. Stephanie says it's all about the image, identifying the stories that matter, and telling those stories, whether it is with live shows or sharing virtual presentations to adults and young people alike. To preserve the legacy of jazz and to advance the future of jazz, Stephanie says that sprucing up the image of individual musicians advances not only the individual artists, but the art form as well. These musicians are in high demand. They compose and perform complex improvisational jazz adjacent, Stephanie might say. These artists may accomplish many recognitions, such as a MacArthur Genius Grant or some other major recognition from Jazz Times or Downbeat magazines. So they're very good at what they do. So with the help of A Tribe for Jazz, Stephanie Matthews believes that their image can benefit from a boost and draw more attention to their work and possibly improve fan base and sales, and subsequently maybe jazz as a genre. So, who are these musicians? So far, their client base includes Biophilia Records founder and pianist Fabian Almazan and spouse bassist Linda Mahon O, and trumpeter Adam O'Farrell. Arabagas Records owner saxophonist John Arabagan, Imani Records recording artist saxophonist trumpeter Caleb Wheeler Curtis, who will appear in a future episode, and New Amsterdam recording artist trombonist Kalia Vandover. But that's not the only thing A Tribe for Jazz does. Jazz education in the Columbus elementary and middle schools has also been a focus. Using the music from one of these top-level musicians, saxophonist John Arabagan, in a project in Columbus elementary and middle schools, A Tribe for Jazz was nominated for a major community award for their program. It engaged young people with jazz to tell their own stories through visual media. The results were inspiring tales that revealed so much about these students and their struggles during the pandemic. Join me in the conversation with Stephanie Matthews, Executive Director of A Tribe for Jazz. I first asked Stephanie to explain what A Tribe for Jazz does. What is their story?
We're a Columbus-based nonprofit, and our mission is to preserve the legacy and advance the future of jazz through visual storytelling, live and virtual performance, education, and community engagement. Stephen, we've been around for about a year and a half, getting ready to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. And we launched during the pandemic. And my business partner and I are the co-founders of the organization. And here's how we came about. We were taking a look at the different artists in the industry and their online profiles, their websites and social media. And what we gathered is that the way they looked in the marketplace didn't line up with the level of musicianship. And we wanted to set out to change that.
You mean the way that they presented themselves in the
That's
marketplace?
correct. That's correct. That's correct. And so our very first artist that we invited to collaborate with us was an amazing saxophonist out of Chicago, very acclaimed, by the name of John Arabagon. I know you know John.
Absolutely excellent.
Yes. Thelonious Monk saxophone award winner, won the Filipino Presidential Award, was named, an honorary member there, and just an amazing young man. And so what we did for John is we wanted to give him an entire uplift, all of his assets. So it was a rebranding effort that started with everything from, logo, website, new body of photographs, but the central part of it was this performance film that we wanted to do with him called Legacy John Arabagon, a Solo Tenor Odyssey. So in the middle of a pandemic, during that second wave, we pulled an entire film crew together, an entire team, to create the cinematic performance film featuring John, which was to be this almost like new reveal into the marketplace for him. And so our team was, majority of it was Columbus based, lighting design, grooming, men's grooming, fashion stylist, all of the assistants. And our director came in from Los Angeles, and I was the producer on it. And so we created this storyline, and we shot for 3 days with John, and it was pretty amazing. And the result was this cinematic performance film, which we released online through stellartickets.com. It was worldwide, and this was October of 21. And it's just been incredible since then. So that was our first project out of the gate.
He looked good, too. He looked good.
Didn't he, though?
Oh, yeah.
And he sounded good, too. Oh, my gosh. And it was this and the film it's based on color theory. So, each of his songs has a color wrapped around it, and it's deep and it's saturated and it's moody. And it's just really all John, the style of it and just everything about it. So that was a pretty incredible experience. And then we've continued our work with John since that point. So, we've had him here in Columbus to perform, and we've done a number of wonderful things with him. But that's what we try to do with all the artists that we work with. Uplift them in the marketplace, bring their digital assets up, help them in areas where they may be lacking. So like with John, for instance, when I say we did everything from, like I said, new website images, copy, PR, social media takeovers. And it was really a beautiful case study in who we are as an organization and our capabilities and what we could do. And I think it showcased our passion and love for not only the art form of jazz music, but also the musicians who create the work.
The question that I have following that, and I thought about this, because I saw the clip that you did, Fabian Almazan and Linda Mahon. And I know Linda. I'm wondering, does jazz have an image problem?
I think what jazz actually is a story problem, because it's an older art form.
Yeah.
Okay. It is an American art form, originally an American art form. But the audience that listens to jazz primarily is older and is aging out, right? So how do you get newer, younger listeners involved? Well, that all has to do with story. And it's engagement, it's relationship. People want to feel connected. They want to understand who you are as a musician. They want to understand your process and the work, and they want to feel like what it is that you stand for, that they can get behind. So here's Fabian, okay, who's a perfect example of this. Fabian has a great passion for, he's a naturalist. And his record label, Biophilia, speaks to that.
Right.
And he's got a new show now that's going to be debuting in Miami pretty soon, which is all about the sacrifice zones. Sacrifice zones being those areas in the U.S. where, corporations, chemical plants dump a lot of toxins, and they just totally neglect the people there, the humanity, environmental violence. Thank you. So that's something that's very much on his heart. But guess what? That is a greater story, which tied into the music, because his new work, he created a body of music inspired by those interviews for the people living in those zones, and his passion for wanting to help correct that problem. That brings people in.
So the story really has to do with environmental justice.
Right.
That's what it boils down to. And so we're talking about packaging that in the image of not only him, but of the broader issue.
Absolutely. And so this is how, and again, and I'm just admiring what Fabian did, because we were not associated with this new project that he's working on. I just want to be very clear about that.
Yeah.
But I admire it and I admire the work. But what I'm saying is the people who follow him on social media, they're attracted to this story because everything that he does is with mission and purpose.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's a wonderful way to approach how someone is presented in the marketplace, and he's just doing a really great job with that. Our goal is to work with one artist at a time, to give them our absolute best and to help tell their story in that particular moment. And the body of work that we create over time will speak to who A Tribe for Jazz is as an organization, and what it is that we value. We hope that shows through in everything that we create.
So A Tribe for Jazz is in an interesting position to have that type of impact.
Absolutely. Yeah, Stephen, you're right. We do. And it's a huge responsibility. The beauty is that as a new organization who kind of moves like a startup, we want to go big, right? We want to do big things. And we're building our connections and our relationships along the way. And we've been so blessed to have worked with the incredible artists that we had so far. John Arabagon, Fabian Almazan, Linda Mejano, Adam O'Farrell. I can just go on. Kalia Van Dever, Caleb Wheeler Curtis. Everything's just been wonderful. And they're very gracious in that they are collaborators, co-collaborators. This is all about co-creation.
Yeah, it is.
And my point being, the younger artists especially understand the power of story, and they understand what it is that we're trying to do. But we as a young organization are still figuring out our way, our path. We have a framework that we believe works, but it's flexible, it's fluid. And that's how stories should be, because the stories tell you what they want to be in the end. But we've been very fortunate that to be able to move into this space and to have seized that opportunity, because nobody's really doing it the way we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, think of it, we get to play. We're very lucky. We're very lucky, and we've got these wonderful musicians that allow us to be able to do that with them.
And they're great musicians.
Yeah, they are.
Those are great shows.
Yeah.
There's another part of A Tribe for Jazz, and that is young people.
Yes.
Let's talk about A Tribe for Jazz and its youth programming. An exploration of emotions and color through jazz music.
Yeah.
You call it a 5-step program.
It is, and it's fantastic. Okay, so I gotta give you the backstory about how the program came to be,
Sure.
so I can tell you exactly what it is. So, the beauty of what it is that we do here at A Tribe for Jazz is we always want to create assets that have can be used in very transformative ways. So we took John's cinematic performance film, Legacy of John Arabagon, which I said before was based on color theory. And, some months later after we were done with it and we were getting ready to set it on the shelf, we looked at it again and realized that it had, it could be used in another space, which is the education space. So based off of the color theory, I created an education program called An Exploration of Emotions and Color Through Jazz Music, which, as you said, is 5 steps. So it's a social emotional learning program that combines the jazz film, music, collaborative abstract arts, an artist interaction, and a gallery exhibition and group discussion into this amazing, unique program that we put into elementary and middle schools here in Columbus, Ohio, select schools on the west side of Columbus. And what we found was the impacts were absolutely incredible. When we introduced the program as a pilot this past spring, the kids at that point had only been back to full-time in-person learning for, not very long.
No.
And they weren't doing field trips yet, and there weren't very many, artists coming into the schools. And so our program seemed like it was the perfect vehicle to help, help young people tap into their emotions.
And they have a lot of emotions given what the
What they
pandemic has
did,
done.
exactly. So, we know the pandemic has done a number on them. And so their emotional well-being was being taxed, and the teachers and administrators were telling us about, young people were having emotional regression. There was, decreased academic engagement. There were higher rates of depression and anxiety. And, just the fallout was just it was tremendous, and it was happening nationwide. But what we found when we introduced the program was it allowed young people to have a catalyst for expressing themselves, for tapping into their emotions, and to learn about jazz, to experience that art form. And it's just been really absolutely wonderful. And we did a documentary short about our journey, and the journey is ongoing. But one of the things I wanted to point out that was a really standout moment in everything that we've experienced with this being in the schools was there was a young man who, what we found later is that he had not spoken but 3 words the entire year. And we were the second day into the programming, and they had done the collaborative abstract arts, and now it was time to present the work. And he volunteered to speak and get up and to talk about this artwork that he and his team had created. And this was an 8th grade class, a middle school class.
3 words all year.
All year.
And then he stands up.
Yes.
To present.
Volunteers to present. And he gets up, Stephen, and in the most beautiful and eloquent way, with such emotional intelligence, begins to explain how, sometimes you can have an emotional block. And that's what this piece of the art meant. And, how music can open the doors, into that. And it was just wonderful.
And he just walked through it.
He did.
Explained the whole thing.
He did. And that let me know there in that moment that this has the power of one. The power of one. If it affects one young child at a time, ever even, then we know we had done good work. Because you don't know the ripple effects.
That's right.
Of that impact.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of these programs. That's the beauty of tapping into the social emotional learning and allowing young people to express themselves and to get more in touch with their emotions and one another through, collaboration. Really beautiful.
The elementary music teacher, I think it was at Ben's Elementary.
Oh, Katie, yeah.
Had talked about how important young people need to understand on how emotional music is.
Correct.
And jazz,
music can make you emotional.
We're sitting there and, you want to move, you want to groove, you want to get into this thing. But then you also have John's music, John Arabigan's music. And A Tribe for Jazz sparks something in these young people.
Yeah.
With that form of music, which much more eclectic to the point of being avant-garde.
Right.
And that means they have to listen to the sounds.
Yes.
The colors of the music.
Yes.
And how it's presented. And they see him do it. And so they also react to his facial.
Correct.
Figures,
yes. And so you're talking about like within the film.
That's right.
So yeah, and this is a great point because the way we shot Legacy was very unique. It was in a black box theater environment. John is solo. There's the color wrapped around him. And the cinematographers moved around him in almost tandem. And this choreography, inspired by the music, moving. It was expanding and it was shrinking space. So we played a lot with spatial.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. And it brings the viewer into the music in a different way. It brings them very close to the saxophone, to his fingers on the keys, to his face, to his facial expressions. And it's just a very new and interesting and innovative way, I think, to experience jazz music. And you're right, John's music is, it's avant-garde. It's jazz adjacent. It's not accessible for everyone, but it forces you to think.
It's exploratory.
Yes.
You are captured by the sounds that he makes. But the science of jazz and the social science, the social mental impact on anybody, it exists. On animals, it exists. On living beings,
absolutely,
it exists.
Absolutely.
So
jazz is extremely powerful. And can I tell you one thing? So I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when we had Was it Adam? No, yeah, when Adam O'Farrell was here with Stranger Days.
Trumpeter Adam O'Farrell. His group Stranger Days, right?
Incredible, right? And we had them here for our first annual Columbus International Jazz Series, which we hosted at Capital University. And I invited a number of young people to be in the audience, and one young man who came stood at the back. And afterwards, I asked him, this was his first jazz show, and I said, "What did you think?" And he talked about the conversation between the instruments.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And Adam had that.
Oh my goodness, what a spectacular show.
It was a great show.
Yes.
It was a fabulous show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But see how someone whose ear is not trained in jazz,
right,
who is introduced to this art form for the first time, understands and has deeper thoughts about it. And that's the power of jazz. That's the power of music. But jazz specifically, because there is that communication, conversation happening between the bass and the drums and the trumpet and the sax and this and that, and who's leading and who's following and who's responding. And I love that.
And the way that Adam also composed the music, the way that, and maybe I'm jumping too far, but I can't help it with Adam, but the way that he set it up, in creating spaces within a fully composed piece.
Yes.
You know, it's not the traditional 8/12 bars.
Right.
And you cut it loose. It is, you go for maybe 2 pages and then it's open. But somebody's got to talk. And so Adam talks, and then his brother talks on drums.
Yeah,
and
Zach.
I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
And that's jazz.
That's jazz.
That is jazz.
Yeah.
And this is what A Tribe for Jazz wants to accomplish with young people, but with anybody. That's what it seemed to me, because you were presenting something that a lot of people don't understand, and that is how jazz does that.
Yeah.
In very different ways. And in this way, it's not Count Basie, it's not Duke Ellington. It's not even John Coltrane.
Right.
Close, but it's not.
Right.
This is a whole different language that so many other musicians are doing.
And what I love about that, and what it is that we're trying to do in our efforts, is, especially here in the Columbus market. Now, see, because we're based here in Columbus, but we think of ourselves as we're an international organization.
I mean, if you're on the internet, you're international.
Right. And we wanted to bring in a series of artists who could expand the space that is currently happening here in Columbus in terms of the very traditional standard type of jazz that's being presented in the venues here.
Yeah.
And we wanted to push outside of that and to let people know that there are these other voices in the art form, and come and experience that. And I think you remember, Stephen, because you were there for all of the shows, how diverse our audience was.
Oh, it was very diverse.
And when I'm saying diverse, I'm not talking about just, color and culture. I'm talking about age. And just everything. The thing is, we always leave space for young people. And I say young people, I'm talking about, we always invite schools or music classes to come, and their kids can come for free. It's, and inviting their families to come, because jazz is a community thing. And the key to promoting jazz, of course, is always at the advancing the future of it is the young people. So we have people there, young people as young as 8, 10. But then you've got the 20-year-old influencers and the social media people, the people who are the creatives and the poets, and, they're there in enclaves. And you've got a cohort of, your 30-somethings, and you've got some other folks who've never experienced jazz, but they're like, okay, I'm going to come check this out because so-and-so said come. And then you've got your older heads. So our audiences, Stephen, went from very small young people to like 80 plus. We got the whole gamut.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's what surprised me.
Yeah.
I was really struck by that. And I knew that A Tribe for Jazz was doing something that I had not seen anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's what piqued my interest about this organization. I want to go back, because we digressed a little bit. I want to go back to the schools
Sure.
as we're talking about young people. So the point here is, and we're referring to what you said before. A Tribe for Jazz is a model. It's a model program. and it's a model program that needs to be duplicated, needs to be replicated in a number of other places. I'm wondering, where do you go from here with that now? What are some of your plans in the next academic year? Do you have any plans for the next academic year?
Absolutely. And so we're working on the strategy for that now. And I've taken meetings with a number of school districts, and we're trying to reformulate the program to perhaps fit into the after-school environment. And there are a couple of teen programs through Parks and Recreations around the city who are actually actively looking at the program to take it on as well. And so it can live in a number of different spaces. And so we want to get it firmly embedded here in Columbus, Ohio, but then we've also got goals to move it outside of the city and outside of the state. And we believe that can happen once we solidify that framework, that model of how it works in those other spaces. It's just a matter of marketing and packaging and building relationships, with corporations to get it out there. That's it. But it's a process, and it's going very well.
Well, this is Steve Brown again. You're listening to Strictly Jazz Sounds, a new jazz podcast, talking about everything jazz. And this afternoon, we're talking with Stephanie Matthews, the executive director of A Tribe for Jazz, a nonprofit in Columbus, Ohio. And youth is not the only target. Everybody is a target for A Tribe for Jazz. How did that name come about, A Tribe for Jazz?
Well, I can't take responsibility for that. That was Bruce. That was Bruce. Yeah. I don't know if I know the story behind it, but I love it though. Because when we got together and decided to make a go of this, the tribe part was already pretty solidified. I brought the visual storytelling aspect.
Okay, that's
through
good.
my work.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because you're a photographer.
Yeah, and a creative director.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So there's that. But yeah, I can't take responsibility for that fabulous name. But I will say everything else since that time. I put my stamp on anything visual, the logos and website and our filming and everything we do. So that's all me.
Well, your photography plays itself out. You have it.
Thank you.
Something else I was wondering about. I noticed that there was an award that was given out a year ago, Rebecca Ogden Award, and it honored this person who did quite a bit of outstanding work in the community. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Sure.
And is there somebody that you have selected for the next one?
Absolutely. So we've since changed the name to just the A Tribe for Jazz Service Award. But Rebecca Ogden is a profound, prolific music educator here in the Columbus area who's done incredible work through the years with young people. And we did honor her for the first series, and then John came back in and performed. That was December of last year. That's right. That's right. This year, we do have another honoree. Okay. And so I cannot say the name yet because
a little early.
It's a little early,
That's
right?
Okay.
But we will have information coming out on that soon. And so it should be very exciting. It'll be a wonderful, wonderful event. And it is I will say this, it's a very well-deserving gentleman who's dedicated his life to music education in the Columbus City schools.
Well, I look forward to learning more about him.
Indeed.
You want to be a part of the future of jazz. So what do you think that looks like?
Well, we're working on a future series, Gender and Jazz series.
Oh, good.
That we're still putting the pieces together, and we've reached out to a number of musicians, and it'll probably be a series of conversations, and I would love to see a film done around it, even if it's a documentary short, and then all culminating in a series of performances. And that's a space that we're very interested in. We're going to continue telling these fantastic stories about these musicians, and continuing to bring in these diverse audiences, introducing more younger people into those spaces so that the art form can continue living through them. We want to continue on in the education space, expanding jazz there, introducing young listeners. So yeah.
Another question I had was, What were some of the responses to the evaluation of the music, of the concerts?
The feedback was just absolutely amazing. And I tell you, when we closed with Kalia Van Dever, the trombonist, oh my goodness, for days after, people texted and called. And I mean, it's just been wonderful. And it was such a blessing that many of the people who came to all 3 shows. So they were able to see such a wide breadth of this different, musicianship. And so that was actually really pretty incredible. But no, I think people were very excited about the possibilities of what it is that we're doing in terms of who we're bringing in. And it's good. It's really good.
Stephanie Matthews gave me a sneak peek at who A Tribe for Jazz is considering for this coming fall. I am not telling who she wishes she could have, but I can say that the biggest prize is a vocalist who's up for 2 Grammy Awards. You can figure that out. Also, I have very recently learned that the documentary short, Legacy John Arabagan, was an official selection for the Pambuhan International Film Festival that played January 21st through the 23rd in 2023 in the Philippines. So congratulations to both A Tribe for Jazz and John Arabagan. As we close out this episode, thanks to Johannes Wallman for his music McCoy from his album Precarious Towers that opens and closes the show. I invite you to subscribe and sign up to get the newsletter. Thanks to Stephanie Matthews and Bruce Halliburton and A Tribe for Jazz, of course, for the interview. And thank you for listening. This is Steve Browngan, and you've been listening to Strictly Jazz Sounds, the podcast that brings you music and conversation on all things jazz.